I also, I've been wanting to really get into planting more stuff inside and do kind of this staggered planting thing. And so while Michelle's got a bunch of stuff growing out in the garden right now, I want to be able to start stuff so I can swoop in like the hero and plant stuff right behind and go, boom, there's a bunch of kale. This is Cameron. Welcome back to the Busy Gardener channel. So excited. Tonight we are going to unbox and set up the Spider Farmer SF-1000 LED grow light. Let's get busy. So you might be wondering, what does a grow light do? Well, it's in the name. The light is there to help plants grow, and the way that it does that is by giving the plants the different spectrum of lights that the plants need at the various stages of development, different wavelengths and frequencies that are going to support the plant at its different stages. A lot of times people will use a grow light for starting seeds, which is what I'm going to do. You start your plants and you kind of give them lots and lots of sunlight, and that helps to accelerate the growth that you get before you then go and transplant them out into the garden. It also works for like a hydroponic type setup where you got it all enclosed and you only have artificial light going on your plants, and that way it gives them all of the frequencies that they need in order to grow and photosynthesize and do all of those things. This technology has come a long way. The thing I want to be looking at today is an LED lighting panel by Spider Farmer, but what it used to be is these big sodium bulbs that were hundreds and hundreds of watts, 500 watts or more per bulb. Then they had these fluorescent bulbs, and that's what I tried. I had them kind of lined up underneath my deal over there, and I just put this little seed tray there and hoped that that light, as it was on, would give enough of the frequencies and enough of the wavelengths that those plants needed. The problem with fluorescent lights, you may be aware of this, is that they dim over time and parts of the frequencies and parts of the wavelengths stop being represented. Some of the wavelengths that are needed aren't even visible to the naked eye, so you're looking at a bulb and you think it's giving off what it needs to, but it turns out that in many cases it wouldn't. So where does it kind of start going south? One thing you may have seen used for this type of thing is using something like an arrow garden, which we've also used. We're essentially using these little seed pods to in an aquaponic type thing where they're just getting splashed with a kind of vitamin enriched water and a nutrient enriched water, so that way it's giving them just through the water what they need to grow. And a lot of times those were using fluorescent bulbs as well. Well, I really wanted to get some LED grow lights going because LEDs, they're on or they're off. There's really no in between. And so I was looking into that and have been looking into that for a few years. The one downside is the ones that are inexpensive just are so scary, because you're thinking, are they really putting off the wavelengths that you need? What happens when the emitters go out? Are these just these things where they grab some cheapo LEDs and slap them in there? What about the driver that drives those LEDs? And so that made me very hesitant, and they weren't even that cheap to begin with. And then you've got these really, really expensive setups that have fans and all of these different lights, and you turn some of these certain LEDs off to turn these other LEDs on, and it just felt like really overwhelming. Well, I was excited. Spider Farmer reached out to me and said, hey, if we sent you something, would you take a look at it, put it into practice, see how you like it, and would you do a video about it? I said, absolutely. The reason why I said yes is because I looked at their reviews online and I looked at the product itself. I didn't want to waste my time going through getting seeds and then feel like, okay, well, these are going to fail anyway. So the Spider Farmer, the things that I like about this, before I even unbox it, are the two things, and these might jump out to you as well. One is that they use Samsung emitters, LED emitters, and that's a big deal to me. When I hear Samsung, I immediately think quality. I know when using these 18650 batteries, anytime those are using Samsung cells, like in those little rechargeable battery banks, that's always a wonderful thing, because Samsung is known for their quality. Looking back behind me here, and I noticed that we have Samsung, you've got washers and dryers and fridges. Samsung is really quality. So there's that, and then the driver, the little thing that is essentially delivering the stable current to these things, the LED driver is made by Meanwell. Meanwell is also a well-known brand, not as, worldwide and well-known as Samsung, but anyway, that gave me the confidence to say, hey, yeah, let's give this a shot. There was that on top of the excellent reviews that this product has gotten. So let's open this up and let's take a look and see what we've got going on in here. All right, so this thing is shipped, it looks like directly in the box. Oh, the whole thing is like a single unit. Here, let's see. Manual. Let's see. Oh. Well, that's pretty cool. It just keeps it all in one spot, keeps it from shifting around. All right, this is the little ratcheting light hanger with some rope, so it's kind of a pulley system that lets you adjust the height of this thing. Yeah, look at that. Already, you guys. Yeah, this actually just looks really quality. This is really nice. Even this little connector here. So this is the driver, and here is the board. Oh, how interesting. I don't know if it's visible on there, if you can quite see it, but what I'm noticing is that the colors of the LEDs themselves, the emitters, are different colors. And then I noticed that there's some coming straight up the middle here. These two rows right here that look kind of like have a red dot in the middle of them. So this feels really substantial. This is nice. I may have mentioned earlier, one thing that's really nice about this is that it doesn't have a fan. One of the things that I don't like about a fan is that it's just continually making noise. It's not going to matter as much for me because I'm going to be running this in my garage. But if you're going to be indoors, or if it's going to be in kind of a living area, the fact that this doesn't need a fan and that it's just using this aluminum backing as a heatsink is a really nice touch. I really actually like that a lot. Also, these holes here are where we're going to attach our little hangers. And so I'm not quite sure where I'm supposed to be holding this thing because there aren't really handles, and I'm just concerned about touching this. One of the things that made me say yes to this Spider Farmer panel as opposed to one of the other ones that is out there is that with this Spider Farmer panel, because it's got such efficient LEDs, in other words, per watt, you're getting more lights per watt from these LEDs versus some of the alternatives. You end up overall spending less on power. So let's say, I think this was on Amazon, like $169 for this panel. And they've got some other products too, but $169, which is not cheap, but you're paying for the quality in this case. $169, and I'll put a link to this so you can go check it out also, and some of the other stuff that they got. You figure this thing is putting out, I think, like 95 watts, 90 or maybe 94 watts, something around there, 92, 94 watts per hour. And so you figure a kilowatt, which is 1,000 watts, or you know what I'm saying, kilowatt hour is 1,000 watts over an hour. I'm screwing that up. Essentially, a kilowatt is when we're paying for 1,000 watts. And I'm paying something like 20 or 30 cents, 25 cents per kilowatt. And so this thing they want it on for 16 hours on, 8 hours off. So 16 hours if I'm paying 25 cents a kilowatt, let's say I'm using roughly, let's say almost 2 kilowatts a day. Not quite, maybe it's about 40 cents a day running this thing. So over a month, that's what, 16, 17 bucks? Well, if you're using something a panel that's running 300, 400, 500 watts, you're going to be spending so much more on the panel just in electricity. And so that's oftentimes where it'll eat up any of the savings. That reminds me of a friend of mine. They got gifted an old fridge. Oh, so-and-so's grandma had a fridge from the 50s or something. And they gave it to us, and we're going to have it as an extra, refrigerator in the garage. And I kind of thought it through with him. I said, hey, the inefficiency, the amount you're going to spend on power alone justifies you going out and buying a whole new fridge. If you're spending $200 a month on powering this thing, go out and buy a fridge that's going to cost you 25 bucks a month to power. And sure enough, actually I had a little power meter, and he was able to see that totally made sense. I don't remember what he was going to spend per day, but it was some crazy amount. So that made me say yes to the Spider Farmer as opposed to something, because running this is going to be far less expensive than running an alternative. So I'm really happy about that. You know, I'm really anxious just to plug this in and look at what the light quality looks like. So let me plug this thing in. Okay, so ideally I would have this already hung up before I plug it in, but I'm just going to see what the deal is here. I'm just going to set it on there. Oh wow, so it's just instant on. Oh my goodness. That is so bright. I don't know if you can see it on there, but this is putting out an awesome amount of light. They say that they've got a couple of differences in terms of the coverage area. I think they were saying, depending on whether or not it's vegetables or if it's flowers. Flowers require more, you have to have it closer. I think it's got like a 2x2 for flowers, and I think it's like 2.5 by 2.5 or 3x3 for veggies. Wow, this is awesome. And so when I use my my little like seeding deal here, my little, what do they call this thing? Little growing deal. My little seed propagator, whatever it is, which is awesome. You fill it with some soil and then you put your seed in there. This is cool. So to start it out, it's going to obviously be closer. And then the larger that the plants get, I'm just going to move this off of it. Wow, this really is putting out such consistent light. And I feel so good about knowing that if the light is on, it's putting out as much as is needed at full capacity. Again, unlike those fluorescents or these other incandescents that just change over time, this is just on or off, and I'm really happy about that. Something that they have on the underside of this, which I'm not messing with, is they have a dimming switch or dimming knob, which you have to kind of disassemble this. I don't see any reason to dim it, but you know, if you're kind of in a fixed setting with a fixed height or something, perhaps you'd need to do that. No, I'm really, really happy with the light output. This is excellent. Some of the other videos, they use some legit kind of lighting equipment to test out, you know, what the frequencies are, what the wavelengths are, and what the spread is, and they verified, validated essentially what Spider Farmer's claims are. So, you know, I'm really excited about this. In the next video, I'm actually going to do kind of a series of videos here where we just check this out. Next video, I'm gonna be putting the seeds into this holder over here, along with the potting soil. I've got 4 different things. I've got a tomato, I've got a jalapeno, I've got some couple of different kales that I'm gonna start out here. And then I'm gonna kind of walk through the use of this light and just see what the results are. And I'll just slowly move it up. Again, one thing that's really nice about starting your seeds indoors as opposed to just sowing them directly is we have stuff in our garden right now. And so what I'm able to do, and what you'd be able to do, is to get your seeds started, get your plants started, and you've got them already growing. And so you're able to have stuff in the heart, you know, ready to harvest. And while that stuff's growing out in the garden, this stuff's kind of coming up behind it. So the minute we harvest that stuff, we can then put these into the garden, and they're already a bunch of the way there. We're in Southern California. Other places in the country, you're starting your seeds because you can't plant it outside because it's gonna frost over. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm happy about that. Not happy that you can't plant it. You get what I'm saying. I'm happy that we can go plant it or not plant it. But there are a couple of reasons why it makes sense to start your plants indoors. Main one throughout most of the country is you have to wait for the frosts, and you have such a shorter growing season. You want to get a jump on it indoors. So that's awesome. If you're outdoors and you just can plant whenever, this just lets you pump more stuff through the garden. Anyway, what questions do you have? Maybe you've got some tips. What should I be thinking about with this? You know, maybe you had some experience growing things indoors, growing things under a grow light in terms of placement. I was just going to place this thing just out in the open with, you know, the thing hanging down, with the light hanging down. Maybe you've got some ideas. Is there something I should be looking for, being really careful about? Should I be looking out for mold or something like that? Let me know in the comments below. Maybe let me know what successes you've had, or maybe you've had experience with this particular lighting unit. I'd love to hear about that. Hey, I sure appreciate you tuning in today. You know, we're trying these things together. That's one part of this, is trying to just have the courage to go out and try these things. So I'm doing this for the first time, really, to try this with any sort of success, to actually transplant into the garden with an LED grow light, and I'm really hoping that it goes well. If you're not already subscribed to this channel, I'd love for you to do that now. That would be a great time if that's your thing. If not, that's okay too. Hey, and whether you've got one seedling in your garage growing or 500? Until next time, stay busy.